Hi, my name is Arvind. Welcome to IMSC. I'm going to take the sessions on C programming language, as this is the base or the platform for understanding the programming languages. As we know that every programming language which has been designed is a base or a platform which has been taken from the C programming language. So as a part of this particular session, I'm going to take a introductory session on the C programming language. So as a part of C programming language, first we need to understand what do you mean by a computer first. Okay, and we will be discussing more about what are the different computer programming languages we have, and how the environment is getting supported by writing the different programs or the different techniques in order to make your jobs done. So we'll be seeing the different computer languages, followed by we'll be understanding how the software development lifecycle will be there as a basic part of your programming. Next, we will be also discussing still more in detail about C programming language, how we need to start up with writing a programming language, what are the basic C tokens which are being used in order to create a program. So all the different things which we are going to learn as a part of the entire course. We'll be using different real-time programs. We'll make an undergraduate student in order to understand the basic concepts of a programming language, with which he can also able to learn many different programming like C++, Java, and he can also do many advanced Java programmings as well. So as a part of the startup, first let me introduce about the computer system. What do you mean by a computer system? It is the combination of both hardware and software. A computer system is the combination of hardware and the software. We know what are the different hardware components which we have and what is a software. We have the different hardware components. As we know that we are having these are the hardware components like input devices. We have some of the storage devices. We also have some of the output devices. So in order to make your hardware components to work, definitely we need to write some instructions. We need to write some programs, the collection of instructions. So everything is been dependent on the programming what you're going to write it. In the same way, you're going to get the proper output from your devices. So a computer system is being comprised, as I said, it is hardware and software. As a part of hardware, we have seen some of the input devices, storage devices, and the output devices. And coming to the software, this is very important for each and every starting person to understand what is mean by a software. Okay, how we are going to write the programs. A software is nothing but which we are going to design as a part of the system software as well as the application software. So as a basically a student from an engineering background, he or she should be able to write some of the programming which have been relevant to the application development. Before going to that, let us just understand the basics of this. What a system software is being consisting of and what an application program is consisting of. As a system software, we have the operating system, system support software, system development software. And as a part of the application and development or the application softwares, we'll be using some general purpose softwares as well as the application specific softwares. So the entire computer or the entire system is being comprised of these two. Now I would like to just explain in detail about what actually we mean by a computer programming. So first, let me just say about a programming language. What do you mean by a programming language? So in order to explain in detail about this particular term, first let me explain about language. Why we are going to use a language? In simpler sentence, I can say that language is used for, it is used for communication purpose. A language is used for communication purpose. How your communication process should be there? There are some basic properties, like each and every person, when we are going to communicate with each other, there should be a proper interaction between whatever the communication which we are going to select. And the ultimate goal of the communication should be like, it should be a proper communication where every person who is being giving as an instruction, there should be a proper response. I mean to say, for every request, there should be a proper response. Only then we can say that that communication is an effective communication. And in order to make this communication successful, we have been designing a language which consists of, we know that if you're going to take a language called English, now how you're going to start learning this particular language. First, we need to understand what are alphabets. After learning alphabets, we'll be learning what are the different words. After learning what are the different words which we have as a part of the English language, next we will try to frame these words into sentences. The group of these sentences, we make them as paragraphs. The group of paragraphs will become a file or a document file. Okay, this is nothing but the hierarchy, how we are going to start and how we are going to learn any language. Like if you're taking an example as an English language, so first we are going to start understanding what are the alphabets which are being used, and the combination of these alphabets, what are the words which are framed, and does these words give a meaningful sense when you make the combination of the alphabets. And with the usage of the different words, we form a sentence, and each and every sentence will form as a group of paragraphs. This entire paragraphs, I can call it as a Word document or a file. So this is how we are going to learn any programming language. And the same way, if you take a C programming language, the basic parts will be your C tokens. First, if you are familiar in understanding the C tokens, the entire C programming language will be very easy. Okay, now let me just give some example of why we require this programming language. Let me take a small scenario. Consider a scenario here as a small example. So what is the example here is, consider there is a person A. There is a person by name A, and there is another person by name B. So we have these two persons, person A and person B. The person A knows the language Telugu. Person B can understand only English. Please understand this scenario. Person A can understand the language Telugu, and person B can understand the language English. Now, in order to communicate between these two persons, person A and person B, now how the communication process goes on between these two persons. As we said that, as a part of understanding any particular language, first the effective part comes with the communication. Now, in the given example, person A knows Telugu language and person B knows English language. In order to make the communication process successful, what are the different scenarios which we can make up here? Now, person A communicates in Telugu and the person B cannot understand the Telugu language because he knows only English. Now, if a person B is trying to send some message or he wants to give some information to a person A, he can communicate only in English language, where person A is unable to understand. Now, at this particular situation, there arises a communication gap where they cannot give a proper request and responses. So in order to solve this kind of a problem, what we can do is we can take a person C who can understand both the languages. I mean to say, this person C knows Telugu as well as this person knows English. Okay, this person can understand both the languages, Telugu and English. Now, whenever we are trying to communicate, consider if you don't have this person C, if a Telugu person A is giving some gesture communication, then that may also lead for wrong communication. Okay, that is the reason we require an intermediate person who can understand both the languages. Now, whatever the message it will be given to the person C, the same message will be translated and it is being given to the person B. Here, in order to make the effective communication and a successful communication, definitely we require an intermediate person. Okay, now as this scenario, consider we have only two persons with the two different languages, but we know that there are different languages. Now, for example, this person knows Hindi. Consider this person knows Hindi and he doesn't know Telugu. Now what happens here? The person C or the intermediate person whom we have selected in order to make an effective communication process, this person knows Telugu and English. He doesn't know Hindi. So there is also a problem in selecting the intermediate person. In order to make the effective communication, definitely this intermediate person should know all the languages. If he also knows Hindi, it is fine with us. If he doesn't know, then it is still problematic for us to identify the person who knows all the languages. By understanding this scenario, what I can say is here, let me just consider a human being and a machine. A human being and a machine. So what a human being can understand? A human being can understand high-level language. And what a machine can understand? A machine can understand low-level language. Now, as we have seen the scenario as an example, person A knows Telugu and person B knows English. In order to make them both communicate effectively, we have an intermediate person called C, who knows both the languages. Now, in this particular scenario, as a human being knows high-level language, this high-level language cannot be translated into the low-level language. That is binary form. Low-level language is in the form of binary, that is in the form of ones and zeros. Now, how we can make this communication process to be an effective communication process? So here comes the translators. They are purely programs which are being written in order to make the communication process effectively done between the two persons. One is the human being and the other one is a machine. Okay. Now, what are the different translators we have? As a part of this, we have three important translators. The first one is interpreter, and the second one is compiler, and the third one is assembler. So these three are the important translators. As I said in the earlier example, this person C should know all the languages, which is very difficult for us to identify a person who knows all the languages and can effectively make the translation process. Okay, that is the reason where what we have figured it out here is we have figured it out three important programs which are very effective in translating the contents whatever they are being given by the high level programming languages to the low level languages. Now what does an interpreter does? An interpreter takes an individual instruction and translate it line by line. An interpreter is a translator which is used to translate the high level language into the low level language, but it translates line by line. As an example, you can take a pastor. When an English pastor is giving some lecture, then the pastor says in English, at the same time there is another pastor who knows the Telugu. There is an intermediate translation. A word, a sentence, after that immediately a Telugu sentence will be given. We can see that it is an intermediate process. Now, as an interpreter, it executes each and every instruction line by line. It reads the instruction and followed by it translates it until and unless the line is get successful, the next instruction will not be processed. This is the job of an interpreter, which is a time delay process as a part of we consider in entire communication process. Now, we mostly use compilers. We use compilers effectively. The reason why we use compilers more is the compilers can be easily communicated the high level language with the low level machine understandable language most effectively. It takes the entire source program. Now, as I said, this interpreter converts line by line, whereas your compiler will take the entire instructions. It takes the entire instructions as a single file and it tries to communicate with the machine. It means it takes the entire source code and transfers into the machine understandable language. Whereas the next one is assembler. The job of the assembler is also the same. It also converts the high level language to low level language, but the only thing is here we are going to use the mnemonic codes or mnemonic instructions like add, move, sub, mul. So these are the mnemonic codes which are being used as the part of the conversion as an assembler does. And this is very secure programming language which is also being used as a part of the embedded software. This is machine a closely related software which is being used for effective communication. This is a high level understanding of how a human tries to communicate with a machine. Definitely he requires some language as well as we require some of the translators in order to make the communication process to be an effective communication process. I hope this is your clear understanding about a language. I made you clear to understand how your language should start up and how you need to start learning a language. And language is very important for us, as well as we're going to use some of the translators to make the effective communication process. Now, coming to the slides once again. Okay. Now, as I said, software. Okay. Let me just explain one more important aspect. Now, as a part of the software, okay, the first and foremost, each and every individual, in order to start up with the doing the coding, the first process we do it is we write the commands. The first one is instructions or you can say it as commands. So the first one is we are going to write the instructions or commands. Whenever we write any instruction, that instruction is getting processed and you are going to get the appropriate result. Now, the group of instructions, if you are using the individual command, you may be having some like time delays. In order to make the entire instructions or the entire commands to work together, into a single unit, you can create it as the group of instructions or the group of commands. I can call it as a program. I can call it as a program. A program is nothing but it's a collection of instructions. Next, whenever we write a group of instructions and we execute as a program, sometimes we need to group those all individual programs. For example, if you are developing any software application, what we are going to do it is, we will be dividing each and every application as the part of the modules, and each and every module will consist of again individual programs. So as we have been writing with the program, we need to collect the programs. Okay, the collection of programs, I can call it as an application. So what an application consists of is collection of programs. An application is a collection of programs. The collection of applications, I can call it as a operating system. Collection of applications. It's called as an operating system. Yes, I can say it as it is an OS or a software which has been consisting of the different applications. Now I hope I made you to clear understand what actually we are going to learn as a part of the entire course. Okay, first you should be able to write a proper instructions which will give an appropriate result, and you should be also framing the programming structure, how you're going to learn any programming language, what is the structure of your program, and how we need to write a instruction set so that I can do my job to be done successfully. Next, the collection of programs, because if you are trying to develop any application, we need to develop an application by writing the individual programs. Next, if you are developing individual applications, then I can say you have developed your own software or an operating system. As a part of your BTech first year, you should be understanding till this 3 levels. These 3 are very important. Okay, and if you are familiar with the first 2 as a part of your first year, then definitely you can crack any programming languages and you can be able to do n number of applications which will be really useful for the real time. Okay, right. Now let us also understand about how we are going to write the programs and all as a part of your C programming language. Okay, there is a proper structure for writing a C programming language. First, I'll explain the structure of C programming language. Structure of C programming language. We know individual commands and all, how we are going to write the commands. If you are not familiar with those, we will also be discussing about each and every individual commands or the instructions, how we are going to write it and how we can make the process executed. Now, structure of C program. This is very important. If you are able to understand the structure of C program, if you are able to write each and every instruction sets according to the structure of C program, then definitely you can be able to write any other programming languages. If your starting or a base is really strong, then definitely you can write any programming languages. Okay, as the part of our C programming language, the structure of C programming language consists of the different sections. Okay, the first section is documentation section. The second one is link section, and the third one is global declaration section, and the fourth one is main function section. This is very important. Next, as a part of the main function section, we'll be having 2 other things. And the last section is the user defined section. Okay, your C program consists of this five very important sections of your C coding. Let us see each and every section in detail, followed by we shall be seeing one example program. Then if like any questions if you are having, then definitely we can take those questions. Let me just tell in detail about the first section, documentation section. Documentation section. Why we require this documentation section as the part of your C. Documentation section, it purely consists of the basic understanding of your program, what you're going to write it as a part of your source code. This documentation section is not being considered by your compiler because these are written only for a programmer or a human understanding, or for communicating or for understanding between the users or the programmers, those who are writing the code. As a part of the documentation section, we have the two things. The first one is we have a single line comments. We have single line comments, and the other one is we have multi-line comments. For any programming language, if you are able to write a proper documentation section, like if you are writing a program for finding the roots of quadratic equation, then you need to specify before when you are writing a program within the comment lines, so that rather a person executing the program and understanding the output and giving the name of the program, then it is better for us to create first a documentation section, write the piece of information before a programmer is understanding the code. Okay, this is very important for each and every programmer. If he is starting at the beginning, try to write much more documentation section. Okay, the first one is single line comments. How we are going to represent the single line comments? The single line comments are specified by the two slashes, // okay, your comments goes here. As a part of the single line comments, we are going to write it or represent the single line comments. This is how. Whenever a compiler encounters these // then it considers this is a comment line which will not be translated into the machine understandable language, because it is of no use of translating. This is only for human understanding. This is the representation for your single line comment. And coming to the multi-line comments, they are represented like this: slash followed by star. If you are having the comments the multiple lines, then you can use this slash star. You can write your comments. You have a multiple lines, you can write with the multiple lines. So this is how. This is the open where you are starting your comment lines, and this is the corresponding close where you are ending the comment lines. So this is how we can represent the multiple line comments. Okay, this is as a part of the documentation section. This is not a mandatory section, but if you are using it, it is very good as a programmer, because your programming standard or the indentation, whatever you do in the programming, that shows how much beautiful you are in programming. So it is better for us to write the documentation section. And coming to the second section is the link section. The second section is the link section. So as a part of the link section, there are very important two things. One is include file inclusions or the header file inclusions. Next, we also have define section. Okay, include as well as the define. So we can say that whenever you want to use any libraries within your given program, because your compiler should understand what are the different formats which are being used as a part of the programming, then we are going to use this link section. As a part of the link section, we are using this include as well as the define. So how we are going to write this is, we need to use a symbol called hash, which is called as a preprocessor directive. What do you mean by this preprocessor directive is, before starting understanding the set of instructions which are being written as the part of C program, first we are asking our compiler to go to the specific library and understand the entire statements or entire rules and regulations which are being corresponding with the given program instructions. Hash is nothing but it's a preprocessor directive. Then we will be writing as hash include followed by the header file names. Okay, this section I can also call as the link section. I can call this as header file section. This is one of the important subsection. This is very, very important. Right? Define section is define section. Whenever you want to represent any macro definitions, then we can go with the define section. This is not mandatory, but it comes with the usage of your program. What are the different header files which we have? Like we have stdio.h, which is standard input output header file. Next, we have everything which goes on with the Angular brackets. Just I'm writing here, like math.h. We have graphics.h. We also have conio.h. We have string.h. We also have stdlib, standard library.h, so on. We have such different header files which we can use as the part of your programming. The very important one is stdio.h, which is used for standard input output header file. Whatever the input streams which we are taking in and what is the output stream which you are going to represent, which will be mainly fetched with the help of your standard input output header file. So these are the different header files which will be used as a part of the link section. And coming to the define section, as a part of the define section, it is purely used for representing the macro definitions. For example, we need to use like area of a circle or a perimeter of circle. We need to use a pi value, right? Directly you can use the value of the pi, or you can also specify with the help of the macro definitions. That is, we need to write it in this way: hash define followed by what is the macro name. Every time, please do understand, whenever we are going to write a macro name, it should be represented in the capital letters, because it creates a vision for us to understand the representation of a macro definition. Okay, hash define pi, we can give a value for it, 3.14. Whenever we are going to use this value of pi or the macro definition name as pi, the value 3.14 will be substituted at the part of the macro definitions. Okay, so this is how we are going to use the link section. Next, coming to the third section. The third section is global declaration section. So what do you mean by this global declaration section is, whenever you want any variable which should be accessible within the main program, and the value should be accessible within the user defined section. So you'll be understanding much more when we are going to understand about the variable and the scope of its or the lifetime of the variable till what we are going to use it. So whenever we represent any variable as a part of the global declared variable, then it can be used within the main function section, as well as that variable can be used as a part of your user defined section. So this is about the global declaration section. This is not mandatory. It comes with a different usage of your programming. And the fourth section is main function section. This is very important section. Each and every C program consists of one main program or one main function section. Your C programming starts with the main function section. This main function section consists of the initialization section, and it consists of initializations or declarations, followed by we have the executable section. A main function consists of initialization section as well as the executable section, where your actual code, actual logic of the programming goes at the executable part. So these are the two important sections which are been corresponding within the main function section. And coming to the fifth one, the last section is user defined section. So as the part of the user defined section, we are going to understand how you can use the code reusability and how you can create your own functions, because we have some standard functions which are being used with the standard libraries. But when we have a job which should be done with the your own designed function names, then we can go with the user defined functions. We have some advantages of user defined functions. We'll be learning much more in deeper about the user defined sections as the part of the function. The concept of functions, when we are going to understand, we will be using this user defined functions. So this is the structure of a C programming language. Any student or any layman who is going to start writing any program, he or she should definitely follow the same structure of C program. Only then I can say you will be called a good programmer. You can become a good program development as a part of your following this kind of an say instruction sets. Okay, so this is about the structure of C program. The very important next one is, as a part of you understanding the structure of C program, and you need to start your programming. What is the next very important step in understanding a C programming language is C tokens. These are the basic building blocks of your C program. These are the very important basic building blocks of your C programming. So as the part of the C tokens, what are the different C tokens we have, and which is very useful for writing your programs? About we have constants. Next, we have variables. Next, we have identifiers. Next, we have keywords. Next, we have data types. Next, we have operators. Next, we have some can also use these statements. These are also basic building blocks, statements. And the last one is special symbols. These are the very important parts of your C tokens. You need to understand what are the constants, what are the different variables, what are the different identifiers which we can be using, what are the keywords, data types, operators, statements, as well as the special symbols. If you understand all these C tokens thoroughly, if you understand all these C tokens thoroughly, then I can say you are the best in understanding the entire concepts of your C programming. So let us just understand what are these as a single statement. What do you mean by a constant? Constant is nothing but the value which will not be varied in your program. The value will be stable. Okay, that we are going to call it as a constant. In order to make the value to be a constant value, we can use the keyword as const followed by the value or a variable name. Suppose if I call, like for example, just for understanding the first one, constant, the value which will never change throughout the program is called as a constant. Now, what is the different constant I can use it, and what are the different data types I can use? For example, if I say int, I'm sorry, here it is lowercase only. All the keywords or the data types should be used in the lowercase. Int followed by, if I say a equal to 10, this value is called as a variable. Here a is called as a variable which can be varied. Now if you are trying to assign a value 10 to it, this should be constant throughout the program. Then I can use a keyword called const. This is also a lowercase, const followed by the data type, the value, whatever you're going to give it. This value cannot be changed in your program. So this is how we are going to understand the constants, how we are going to use it. There are different types of constants which can be used. We'll be seeing the different constants, like we have a Boolean constant, character constant, integer constant, string constant, character constant. So like this, we have the different constant types as well. We can see as the part of the entire course what are the different constants, how we can use the different constants as well. And the second one is variable. Okay, as I said, constant will not be changed. Variable, it can be changed. The value which is changed in the changing nature is called as a variable. Okay, you can take int a equal to 10, and immediately sometime if I want to change the value of a, I can also change the value of a to 20. We can change depending upon the situations within the given program. The value will be changed. This is what a variable. And the third one is identifier. You please understand, this is very important. Identifier. The third one is identifier. This is very, very important. You should be able to understand the different rules and regulations what have been framed for an identifiers. What do you mean by an identifier? So for your better understanding, identifier is a named memory location. What do you mean by an identifier? An identifier is a named memory location. See, for example, if you consider the memory, let me just make you clear understanding about the identifier, because if you understand this identifier properly, you can apply the rules or the regulations which have been framed as an identifier for every concepts. It may be the concept of array, functions, or the different variable names. Anywhere we are going to use it, we are going to form this rules of identifiers. Consider this is your memory blocks. As we know that within the system, all the memory blocks are being allocated in this fashion. Now what happens whenever I want to select any specific cell? For example, I'll be giving the instruction as int a equal to 20. Now this particular block is considered as the block, the memory block in which the value stored is 20. Okay, I'll just maximize this one particular block here. Just let me just maximize this one specific block and make you clear understand about it. See, the value within this is 20. The value within the block is 20. And what is the name of the block is A. For every block, there is some address which is being created. So you please understand here, an identifier name is a named constant which is used for assigning the name of your memory blocks. If you want to access the value which is stored within the memory block, you can access it with a name or you can access it with the address. If you are accessing with the name, it's like you're giving the name of the location and you're going to access it. Okay, which takes a little bit time process. You'll be understanding as a part of pointers. When we come with the pointers, you'll be understanding about the addresses, how addresses are creating the efficiency in accessing the variables apart from the named memory location constants. So you can access a value 20 with a name or with the address. When you are talking about address, we are going to discuss about the pointers. Okay, so this is what a named memory location. Now, why I said the identifiers are very important is we have some rules of identifiers. We have some rules of identifiers. The first rule is if you are considering any identifier name, okay, an identifier name should start with an alphabet. I'm just writing an identifier name should start with an alphabet. An identifier name should start with an alphabet. Later it can be a combination of any special symbols, or it may be the values or the digits, whatever it may be. But the first identifier name should start with an alphabet. Okay. Next, an identifier name should start with underscore. An identifier name should start with an underscore. An identifier name should start with an underscore, but not with any other special symbols. Next, the third one, an identifier name should not be a keyword. An identifier name should not be a keyword. It should be a different name apart from the keywords. The reason behind this is keywords are the reserved words which are used for some specific tasks which are already been reserved to do their own specific tasks. So we cannot use those keywords as our identifier names. So keywords, they should not be used as keywords. Next, an identifier name should not consist of blank spaces in between. Blank spaces in between. So we should not use the blank spaces in between. Okay. So these are the different rules of the identifiers. And whenever you're going to write an identifier name, try to restrict the name of the identifier within 8 to 32 characters length. Okay, these are the very important rules of identifiers. An identifier name should start with an alphabet. An identifier name should start with an underscore, not with any other special symbols. Next, an identifier name should not be a keyword. Next, an identifier name should not consist of blank spaces in between. Okay, these are the very important rules of identifiers. When you understand this entire identifiers properly, you can apply the same rules of identifiers as a part of your, I can say, these rules are only not for the identifier names. These rules are for variables. When you are going to write the constants, or if you're writing any function names, or if you're writing an array name, or if you're writing a pointer name, for any of these things, your rules of identifiers will be applied, because within the memory, everything is represented as a named constant. So whenever you're going to write any identifier name or any variable, constant, function name, array name, or the pointer names, definitely we should follow all the rules. So this is about the identifiers. The next, we have keywords. There are 32 specific keywords which we'll be seeing as a part of the entire in detail. Just I'll show you what are the different keywords which we have. Different keywords which are being associated. So these are the different keywords which we have. These are all the reserved words. We should not use these reserved words as a part of your identifier names. So you please remember this. We can also divide the entire keywords whatever we have, the different parts, because there are some specific keywords which have been related to the memory, which are related for the storage classes, which are related for the statements like conditional, looping statements, iterative statements, all those things. We have the different identifier names. Next, the very important one is the data types. As a part of your programming, you should be able to understand very few basic data types. Just I'll write it. What are the data types which you need to remember or you need to work with this? The fifth one is the data types. What do you mean by data types? It represents the type of the data what we are going to use as a part of your program. So there are very few data types which we are going to use it. Just let me explain. We are using character data type, as we are writing the keyword as the keyword name for this is char. We need to understand what is its size and all. The size which is being used for this is 1 byte, and we can represent this character data type for an individual character as well as for a string. If you are representing for an individual character, okay, this is the lowercase char followed by, if I am representing an individual alphabet or an individual character, let us consider some ch equal to, if I am representing an individual character, give it in the single quotations. Okay, it should be represented within the single quotations. Now if I am representing the same as a part of your string, then it should be represented with a array, followed by, you're going to write it within the inverted commas name. Within the inverted commas you need to represent this. So this is how we are going to write the character data type, and whatever we are going to use it, we are going to represent for a constant as the single quotation for individual character. For a group of characters, we need to represent it with the help of an array, and it should be represented with the double quotes. And the very important thing we need to understand here is format specifier. Format specifier. So the format specifier for an individual character, we are going to use it as %C, and for the group of characters, we are going to use it as %S. So these are the two format specifiers which we are going to use as the part of the character data type. The next data type which we are going to use it is integer. Integer data type. The data type for this is int. And what is the size of this? Depending upon the usage, depending upon the compilers, some compilers they are taking 2 bytes or they are taking 4 bytes of the memory. Int followed by some a equal to 5 numbers. It is purely used for the integer numbers. Even though if you specify some 5.2 or 5.10, 5.6 or 5.7, it will never take the point values. It will take only the integers. And the format specifier for this is %D. %D is the format specifier. Next, if you have some of the precisions to be used, then you can go with the floating points. Float is the data type. What is the size of this is 4 bytes. Okay, you can use %F as a format specifier. Next we have double, where you can use the more precisions. It takes more precisions compared to the float, and for more accuracy we can go with the double, whereas it takes 8 bytes, and you can also use this %F. as a part of the double. So these are the very important data types which we are going to use as a part of our programming. Most of these are the data types, and if you want still some more, you can extend them. Like you can use Boolean, or you can use the signed, unsigned. You can use long, short. Next, we can use this long. All these different things we can use as a part of this basic data types. These are the very important data types. Next, we have the different operators. We have the different operators. Sixth one is operators. The different operators which we are going to use it is, for example, these are the different operators. Arithmetic operators. Next one is relational operators. Logical operators. Bitwise operators. Next, we can use the ternary operators like conditional operators or the ternary operators. Next, we can use the increment operator. Next, seventh one, decrement operator. Next, we can use assignment operator. Next, we can use some special operators. So these are the different operators which we are going to use as a part of the C programming language. And not only with this, we can also use the same operators with the different programming languages like Java, C++ as well. So you should be able to understand all these operators thoroughly. You should be doing the different programmings on this specific operators. So let me take first, what do you mean by arithmetic operators? Arithmetic operators are purely used for performing the arithmetic operations. The different arithmetic operators which we are going to use it are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modular division. Okay, we'll be using the different operators for performing the different operations. Next, we have the relational operators. Relational operators, we have like it is checking the relation between the two operands. Okay, it may be the whether the given operand A is greater than operand B. Okay, relational operators are like greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, double equal to, and not equal to. Okay, double equal to is nothing but we are going to use it for comparison. Next, we have the logical operators. Logical and, logical or, logical not. Similarly, we have the bitwise operators. Bitwise and, bitwise not, bitwise or, and we also have as the part of the bitwise operators like the right shift, left shift. So these are very important as a part of the interview as well. Okay, logical and bitwise operators differences. Next, we have a conditional operator, or it is also called as the ternary operator. Ternary operator is nothing but it is similar to the if and else. If the condition is true, then the if part is going to be executed. If the condition is false, then the false part is going to be executed. Okay. Next, we have an increment operator. It is called as the unary operator as well. We have a pre-increment and post-increments. Similarly, we have pre-decrement and post-decrement. Next, we have an assignment operator, which is used for assigning the right-hand side value to the left-hand side variable or operand. Next, the last one is special operators. We have some special operators like size of. If you want to know the size of the given variable, depending upon the data types and all, we can use the different special operators. And if you're using a pointer variable like star, we can also use the arrow signs when you're going to use this structure variables. all the different kind of special operators also we use it as a part of the programming. These are the very important operators. And the last, the seventh one is statements. Statements. There are different statements which should be used in the programming. Like we have a null statement, compound statements. Apart from that, I have categorized these statements into three types. The first one is conditional. Next, iterative. Unconditional. Unconditional statements. Apart from this, we have null statement, return statement, compound statement. Okay, all these are the different statements. But apart from this, these are the very important statements. As a part of the conditional statements, we have any statement you take in the real time, any statement, the statement consists of only two values. Either the given statement is true or false. But a statement cannot have the two results. Like for example, if I say sun rises in the east, then it is a true statement. Sun rises in the west, false statement. So either it has true or false, but not both. Then that kind of a conditions we are going to call it as the conditional statements, where we are going to check for the true part or the false part. For that we have if followed by condition. If I is in the lowercase only, I'm using this Word document, this I followed by the condition. If this condition is true, then statement 1 is going to be executed. Okay, this is the simple if condition. Next, we also have if else. If else. Next, we'll be having else if. There is a proper syntax and a proper format for writing these kind of programs, but just I'm just writing the list of the conditional statements. If else, else if, as well as we have nested if else, nested else if. Next we have switch, okay, which is a multi-way selection statement. Depending upon the switch statement, we are going to get the appropriate result switch statement. Okay. Next, as a part of the second one, iterative statements. So as a part of the iterative statements, they are at the high level, they are classified into two important types. The first one is entry controlled, and the second one is exit controlled. So as a part of the entry controlled, what are the different iterative statements we have? Or the first one is while loop, and the second one is for loop. So these are the two loops which are being used as the iterative statements within the entry controlled. And the second one is exit controlled. For exit controlled, we have only one, that is do while. D is lowercase. We have a proper syntax for writing it. According to the syntax itself, we need to write it. Okay, like the syntax for while. How you're going to write it? While condition. If this condition is true, then we are going to execute the statements. Statement 1, statement 2. Next we have some increment or decrement depending upon the situations of the programming logic. Next we are going to close it. This is how we are going to write the while loop. Next, if you are trying to use the for loop, where it has the initialization and for the first one is initialization, condition, increment or decrement. You can write this block of statements. If the condition is getting satisfied, then statement 1, so on. These different statements will be executed. This is how we are going to close it. Next, we can also use the do while, which is a exit control statement. Exit control, first do statement 1, statement 2. We can use the different statements followed by, you can close this, and here you're going to write the while condition, semicolon. So this is the syntax for writing a do while statement. There will be also an interview question like what is the difference between while and do while. So in while, only when the condition is true, the statements are executed. But in the case of do while, at least for once the statements are executed, even though the condition is failed. Okay, this is what the actual difference between while and do while statements. These are very important as a part of your iterative statements. Okay. Next, the third one is the unconditional statements. In the unconditional statements, we have continue, go to, break. So these are the three statements as a part of the unconditional. Also, we have some statement like return. So this is also an unconditional statement. Okay, unconditional jumps can be seen within the flow of execution of your program. There is an interview question in this, like what is the difference between continue and break? Continue is used to skip the iteration, whereas break is used to stop the iterations. So this is about your different statements. Next, we have the different special symbols which we can be used as a part of the program. We'll be using the different angular braces, curly braces, comma operator, all the different kind of special symbols will be used. So these are the very important C tokens. If you understand all these C tokens thoroughly, and if you understand how to write a C program structure, then I can say you will be the best programmer. The best programmer. Okay, in order to write this particular program, just let me write a sample, a C program, how you're going to write it. Sample C program. According to the given structure of C program, just let me write a sample C program. vi space example 1.c. Okay, every C programming extension is written it as .c as an extension. Before we are going to write any C program, this is what the structure of writing a C program. First, we are going to use a text editor or an editor where you're going to write your source code of instructions. As soon as you hit on enter, then you will be finding this particular workspace where you need to start writing your program. So what are the different sections of the programs we have? The first one is documentation section. Now let me write the documentation section with a single line comments. Okay, I'm writing this C program for addition of two numbers. This is what simple program I'm writing. Still, as a part of the course, we can see much elaborated and lengthier programs. Okay, so this is a C program for adding the two numbers. Now, after the documentation section, what we have, we also have the different types of documentation sections, right? We can write it with a single line comment or multi-line comment. So how are we going to represent the multi-line comment? Just write it with the multiple lines. In this program, I'm going to read two values and store the result in the other variable. Just close it with star and slash. So these are considered as multi-line comments. Depending upon your usage, depending upon your programming, you can use the single line comments or multi-line comments. So this, the entire part, I can say it as a documentation section. You can not only use here, we can also use as a part of your program as well. Okay, this is the documentation section. Now, the next section, after the documentation section, we have the link section. As a part of the link section, we are going to use the hash as a preprocessor directive, hash include. We are going to use the direct or the header file names, the standard input output header file, stdio.h. Okay, we can also use the different header files by writing hash include string.h, hash include conio.h. As we are using this Linux, we know how to use the conio.h. If you are using Turbo C editor, we can use conio.h. It is purely used for console input output header file. The header file is supporting the two important functions. They are clear screen and getch. So here, as a part of this Linux operating system, we only need to use those clear screen or getch. So we don't use the conio.h command, conio.h header file. Next, we can use math.h, string.h, graphics.h, standard library.h. Depending upon the header files, depending upon the situations which you are using within the program, you can use the header files, appropriate header files. Next, if you are using the macro definitions, then you can use the macro definitions with hash define, followed by the macro name. Here, as a part of this particular program, we don't require any macro definitions, so I'm not using it. Next, global declaration section. Global declaration section, let me just call it as int result. Int result, I'm just storing that result in the global declaration section. Okay, you can also specify while you're writing the code. Here itself, you can specify it as global declaration. For your understanding, just I'm writing it. See, global declaration section, I have written in the comment lines. It means when your compiler is trying to translate the high level language into low level language, it will never consider this comment lines. These are only for programmer understanding. Next, what the important section is main function section. The important section is main function section. And whenever you are going to write any program, please try to follow the proper indentations. So what are the indentations means? How beautifully your code looks. That is, we need to just give a tab space and start writing here. As a part of your main function section, we have two things. One is initialization section and the other one is executable section. In the initialization section, we need to initialize the variables. As see, I'm using the integer as a data type here. Okay, int a comma b. Okay, now we also have some of the input and output streams. We need to read the values and we need to print the values. I want to read the values of a and b at runtime. So what I'll do is I'll just print the message printf, enter the values of a and b. We have an escape sequence, /n indicates which a new line is being printed. Next, printf is an output stream. Printf is an output stream, whereas scanf is an input stream. Depending upon the usages, we can use it. Like if you are using the strings, we can say puts. Okay, gets for reading the string. Next, we have for files. Okay, fgets, fputs. Fputs means it puts the content onto the file. Fgets, it reads the content from the file. Here, these are reading the contents from the keyboard and printing on the standard output device called monitor. So we'll be seeing much in detail about the files as well. Now, what are the values I'm reading? I'm reading the values of A and B. So in order to read the values of A and B, I need to give their format specifiers. Because in your compiler, it should understand what the content should be stored as a part of the given memory location. See here, I have drawn a memory location and I made you to clear understand about the memory location. Right, whenever I say int a, see here, whenever I say int a equal to 20, then a block has been created. This is the block I have maximized it. So the block here, it stores only integer variables. It will not store characters, or it will not store strings, or it will not store any other values. Only it stores the integers only. Okay, that is the reason I am just specifying it for the clear understanding by the compiler. That is percentile D. So I am reading two values, I am using two percentile Ds. Comma, I should say their addresses, right? Where the values will be stored. Address of A, address of B. It means at runtime these values are getting fetched. Now after reading the values, I want to calculate, because your initialization is done. This is your initialization. These are your output stream, and this is your input stream. Followed by, you need to go with the executable section, right? Now you are going to write the executable section. What is the executable section? Result equal to A plus B. Give a semicolon. Next line. Now this result is an identifier name which I have initialized in the global declaration section. It means I can access this variable within the main function as well as the outside of the main function. User defined sections also we can access it. This is what I mean to say. Now after calculating this result using an assignment operator, this is an arithmetic operator plus. Okay. When I add these two values, I'll store it in the result. Then I am trying to print the result now. Printf. If you want the output in this way, like the addition of, within the printf, we know how to use the ampersand sign, but let me just show you clearly how your output result will look like. The addition of percentile D and percentile D is percentile D slash n. Now the first percentile D is the value of A, comma, give the proper arguments. How many format specifiers you have used and what are the arguments which you are passing. And what is the next percentile D? It is the value of B. And what is the last one? That is result. Just close it, give a semicolon. Next, return 0. Whenever you use an int followed by this return 0, what actually happens is whenever I'm going to call this main function, it calls within the operating system to give the proper resources. It may be the variable initializations as a part of your memory storage, and after successful execution, you are sending return 0. It means that you have used successfully resources, and I'm releasing the resources after my successful execution of the program. That is the reason we are going to write this return 0. Now after typing the entire code, just type escape. I'm writing and executing. Now in order to compile it, see, we have written a source code. Please do understand here. Whenever you're going to write any program, see, a programmer is using a text editor to write the source code. This is what the step which we have already done it. We took a text editor, we have opened it, and we have written a source code. Now this source code should be compiled. Why we are going to use the compilers? Because we had clearly made a discussion that your code is being written in the high level language, whereas your machine will not understand the high level language. In order to convert this high level language into low level language or machine understandable language, we are going to give this code to the compiler. The output of the compiler will be the object code, which will be in the form of ones and zeros. This object code is being given to the linkers. What are the linkers we have? The libraries which are being associated with the program. Because I already said this translators, whatever we are going to use it, they are also the programs which are being specifically designed for accessing with the libraries. The instruction sets will be accessed from the libraries. According to the libraries, it will be giving these executable codes. This executable code is been given for the runner. Then we get a result. So whenever we are going to use this C programming language, we need to properly follow the structure of C program. And in order to run the program also, there is a proper structure. You need not to run your program directly. So you should go with this all phases. The first step is open the text editor, write the source code, then give the source code to the compiler, check that there are no errors. When there are no errors within the compiler, the job of the compiler is it translates the high level language into low level language, and it also checks for the errors. And one more thing you need to remember here is your compiler will check only the syntactic and semantical errors. Compiler will check only syntactic and semantic errors, but not the runtime errors. In order to check those runtime errors, we are going to use in the exception handling mechanism of the Java programming language. Not as a part of this, you can also write some of the conditional statements that I'll let you know in the sessions, the further sessions. Okay, the job of the compiler, it creates an object code. Now this object code, you need to give it to the linker. So this linker phase, it is not responsible by you. So your responsibility is to write the code in the text editor. Next step is compiling, and whenever you make any of the corrections within this, you need to save this file, and once again you need to compile it. As soon as you compile it, you'll be getting all the intermediate the piece of codes which will be generated by the compilers. That code you need to use it as your executable code for executing your output. So this is the step for creating and running the programs. Okay, now we have already done it. Open the text editor, we have written a program. Now immediately the next step is we need to compile. In order to compile, the command is cc space, what is the file name? Example1.c. Now enter. If you have any errors, then you will be getting the errors. For example, let me just create one error here, because we know that every statement should end with a semicolon. Just I am trying to remove the semicolon here. Now I am trying to save this program. Now you will be getting an error. Sorry. Now when I am compiling this code, now you see you will be getting an error. Just read out the error properly and carefully here. You will understand what is an error. So what is the error here? It is saying that it is expecting some special symbol, maybe equal to sign, or it may be the semicolon. You're giving the different options, right? And there is a declaration error. Like we have declared a variable with some space. We have a declaration error. Okay, undeclared identifier. So these are the different errors. Now we need to check this error. We need to rectify it. See. Now we are going to save this program. We should be able to check the errors, and we should be able to modify and get the proper source code without any errors. Your source program should not have any errors. Now let us just compile and check. Whenever you compile it, you'll be getting an object code and you'll be getting the executable code. Now in order to execute that program, ./a.out, enter. Now it is asking for enter the values of A and B. I'm giving the value of A as 15 and the value of B as 30. Okay, I have given the value of A as 15 and value of B as 30. As soon as I enter, you'll be getting this. The addition of 15 and 30 is 45. So is it clear? These are the arguments which we have passed as a part of the program. That is %d is %d, and the arguments we passed is a comma b comma result. So this is how we are going to get the result of the given program. I hope a single program is better for you to understand and go through writing the number of programs and understand much more better. So this is about the understanding of a structure of C program, followed by how to write a C program. I hope I made it